actually move the margins to the mainstream. Why and how rural India is India's future. This is a really interesting panel discussion that's going to be chewing over the need for emphasizing economic diversification and making social inclusion more than just a platitude, and really trying to decode that chunky notion of sustainable resource management and how we're going to apply that to innovation, entrepreneurship, and inclusive prosperity. I would like to introduce the panel, and if they can all remain seated until I introduce all of you, and then we can have a round of applause after I do the introductions, please. We'll be joined today on this panel by, joining us on the panel today will be Shri Anurag Sharma, a member of Parliament for Jhansi and Lalitpur Lok Sabha constituency. Paroma Roy Chowdhury is a senior leader in corporate comms and public affairs, serving in an advisory role at Ashoka University. And now just hold your applause until the end. Yamini Iyer is a leading voice in policy and the Indian political economy, and a former president and chief executive of the Center for Policy Research. Maidan Padaki is a serial social entrepreneur. He is the managing trustee of Head Held High Foundation and the CEO of iBridge, a rural commerce platform. And last but not least, we have Pankaj Pachauri, who is a veteran journalist, spent years with Indie TV and India Today, and now is the founder of Go News India. And he will be moderating the session. Let's put a big hand of applause together while they come to the stage.
Thank you all. Thank you, Lindy, for that wonderful kickoff. And thank you all for coming. I have on the dais people who make my job absolutely useless because they all know more than I do about this subject. The basic theme of today is that how to transform rural India, TRI, and how to stop looking at rural India with sympathy. Don't take me wrong. What we have done so far in the last 50, 60 years, which I've seen since the Green Revolution, that we've been looking at rural India as a cost center with sympathy. गरीब लोग हैं, इनके लिए कुछ करना चाहिए. We have to make this rural India into part of the strategy. The session before this, we talked about that a policy, if it cannot be implemented, has a design defect. So that design defect should not be this time when we are talking about transforming rural India. And what is the key to start, think, and implement that policy? And that key is that we do not think of rural India as a value addition. You know, the gross value addition of rural India, I'll just give you a small example. This is 1 kg of aloo. Okay? Today, in the Azadpur Mandi, its price is 13.5 rupees. And this is 100 grams of chips. And its price today is 1,125 rupees for 1 kg. Why? Because that is basically the value addition to aloo. This is 17% of our economy, agriculture, allied services, and this is the rest of the economy. And that rest of the economy, the fruit processing, the manufacturing, the logistics, the marketing, the fancy ads, This is pizza flavor, by the way. That adds the value addition. And unless we start thinking at India, the rural India, that how can the rural India value add to the things which are on Amazon, we would be missing the wood for the trees. And that is today exactly the problem which we have been facing. I'll start from the Member of Parliament because he is his second tenure. He has been on the Parliamentary Committee for Rural Development, now on Transport and Culture. And he comes from Jhansi, where I spent a very short time. And I got my first real education in Jhansi Government Inter College, where I learned how to make furniture, how to do horticulture, how to differentiate between a venomous snake and a non-venomous snake. So those are the kind of things which, in rural India will we talk about. My only exposure to rural India was that when I was like 7 years old or something. And I haven't forgotten those skills. So, Anurag Sharma, are we talking about something which is so obvious that people miss it? That how to value add in this whole economy, 65% people who are reliant basically on agricultural economy, live in our villages, and we keep talking about urbanization, we'll come to that. Do you think that we are missing this huge point that these people, if you send them to IIT, they'll do as well, or IIM, anyone else, and add that value to India?
Thank you, Pankaj. I'll begin slightly off what he said. Tomorrow is the anniversary of the Quit India movement. And what Mahatma Gandhi said once, the soul of India resides in its villages. And on the 9th is a Raksha Bandhan. I'll tell you a little interesting story about Raksha Bandhan. Here in cities, we just tend to think of exchanging gifts and meeting your sibling. Where I come from, Jhansi, the Rani sent a thread to Maharaj of Banpur in our first war of independence. And he gave up his entire kingdom because one piece of thread. So rural India brings that dedication. His entire family was wiped off. His entire villages were wiped off. His forts were burnt. Thousands of people died. Just one single piece of thread and they never met. Rural India brings that kind of dedication. Now, rural India, sir, please don't give us sympathy. I come from a rural background. I come from a constituency which is primarily rural. Jhansi is now an urban center, but the rest of my other constituency is called Lalitpur. It's primarily rural, and we are an agri-based economy. It's where you add value. And there are loads of methods and ways of doing it. Now, when we were looking at I'll tell you some interesting stories about it. Bundelkhand is a semi-arid zone. We've always been known in this country for shortage of water because we have a rocky terrain, we have a 75 to 80% runoff of our rivers. We contribute the most water to the Yamuna. You guys in Delhi and Haryana finish all the water of the Yamuna. यमुना जी में पानी आता है तो चंबल से आता है, बेतवा से आता है, केन से आता है, सिंध से आता है. There is no water which Delhi releases. The rest, when you go to Prayagraj, the water is from, because we have a very high runoff. Anyway, coming back to this, now if you give them opportunities, and we've done certain things there, we are building UP's largest industrial area ever. It's going to be bigger than Noida. 56,000 acres. And we're primarily looking at what? Agri-based industries and small agri-based industries. There is a government program called ODOP, One District, One Product. We start making soft toys. Now Jhansi is a place where women are making soft toys at homes. It's being exported. My other ODOP for Lalitpur is Chanderi sarees, these beautiful sarees which get made. Chanderi is just across the Betwa. So we started building those. Now, when you start losing your own culture, your own handicrafts, so this government, luckily for me, has concentrated on all those. And since I now serve on a ministry, on a committee called Cooperative, where we find that if you do a lot of cooperative work, there is a huge transformation which happens in lives. Give you another example. Jhansi, because of being an arid zone, we had a very major issue where people would leave their animals. So our traffic jams weren't created by cars, they were created by animals on the road. Anna Pratha kehte hain. Nobody owned these animals. Cows, buffaloes. Today we created an institution called Balini. It's a women-led development program where we collect milk from villages. I have 80,000 my didis working in Balini. They all get a share. And Delhi, you would be surprised to know, we send you 3.5 lakh liters of milk daily to Delhi now. Our aim is to take it to 10 lakh liters. So Mother Dairy's milk is actually coming from Jhansi. We distributed 600 crores among these women. And women are the actual drivers of growth. Because what they've done is, one, they're much better at men than spending. They're far more economic minded. They're far better savers. And they utilize the money much higher. So now when I go back to my didis and I ask them, what have you done with the money? She's probably built a house. She's probably got her daughters or son married. She's bought more cows. So that's transforming rural India. That's what we really require to empower women to come up. Wherever we've empowered women, those villages have changed. So that's a major difference you will see. In fact, Jhansi, we have another program it's called RISE. RISE is, probably understand this in Delhi better than I do, is Rani Lakshmi Bai Incubation for Sustainable Entrepreneurship, where women are now making soaps, millet cakes, cookies, and we have a startup. We've created an ecosystem where the background I come from, making Ayurvedic medicines, I've been fortunate enough to give them the first check that we would become early investors, and we will also help you distribute across the country. So these kind of initiatives can really transform.
That's really heartening to know. And what you talked about, women's cooperative and milk. I have a question here for policy and regulatory system for Yamini. We keep talking about replicating the Amul experiment all over India. We've tried and we've failed. Why do you think that happened? That in a country which is now the largest exporter of livestock and dairy products, why can't we replicate? Is there a problem in the design of the policy, or it's so cultural and specific in different areas that we can't do it? UP, by the way, is the largest producer of milk, but they tried to replicate Amul as Parag, didn't work too much. Why do you think? Is there a problem of that? Because you've been doing social audits of schemes all your life. Why do you think that happened?
Before I get to your question, I think to the framing of this panel, I just wanted to make a quick intervention. I think that the real challenge with how we talk about rural India, or for that matter, how we talk about India itself, lies in the fact that we have an economic imagination that has very much now become the centerpiece of how we think about policy, that seeks very hard to make invisible the vast majority of Indians. We think about it in binaries. There's formal, there's informal, and it's always it's a power struggle. We want the economy to become more formal. The formal economy is generating our GDP, which is making us very happy. The vast majority of our economy rests firmly in the informal, instead of actually engaging and understanding the informal, which is both urban and rural. Rural India sends workers to urban India for all of us to be in a room like this. Who made it? It's construction workers who came from rural India, for whom we have absolutely nothing except precarious, low-level wage labor. And every time we try to push the discussion to actually delivering basic rights to the vast majority, it always gets caught in this idea that, oh, but that will create problems for capital generation. We have a very, the way in which we imagine our policies, they have been imagined in an assumption that if you are able to enable capital to do what it wants to do, productivity will be enhanced in a way that everybody will benefit. We have 75 years of pretty good experience to tell us that capital holds on to capital the way it wants to. And ultimately, if you do not empower labor, and I'm not making a Marxian argument, don't get me wrong at all. However, you cannot lock yourself in an imagination of an economy that is only going to create structures of deregulation that enable the capitalist. And there is politics involved in that. We don't need to specify, but there's a political economy there, which then does not generate the kind of power of the masses, which is essential in order for rural India not to be a cost center and the informal worker not to be treated as a cost center either, but actually an empowered citizen to whom the state has an obligation to deliver. That hits to your question on what is and isn't replicable. How is it that the NDDB, that Amul itself evolved? It was very much about a community-based grassroots mobilization and an approach to business and capital from that core objective of productivity enhancement of the owners of this cooperative. So that is, there was a unique context in which that emerged. And when we talk about replicability sometimes, we think that replicability is kind of, it's a model. I can take that model and just transport it everywhere, but contexts are different, and replicability is only effective when you get to the core principle of what made something replicable. The heart and soul of Amul is are the owners of the Amul cooperative, and how they worked collectively to achieve a certain degree of scale. Do other parts of the country where this has been experimented with have the same degree of patience, mobilization, involvement of grassroots organizations, space for communities to develop the most sensible way in which they can access markets in ways that make sense for their local context? I would say no, and that's why you don't get the replicability that you seek.
Thank you for that. It is happening now, Nandini in Karnataka, Jivika in Bihar. I mean, it's started happening, but it's the scale is too low, number one. Numbers are too small. Anything in India we need today, like our airports, we need like 10 times more. And similarly here. And to your question about the capital, what if we start thinking like that actually the people are the capital? When we talk about the capitalist economy, and the minute you start talking, finding faults in the capitalist economy, you are branded a Marxist. You are also saying, arm's length, and I'm not a Marxist.
I'm not
making it's okay. It's okay. Because unless you start treating people, which is what I was saying, that the value addition is actually the people. I'm not talking about potato. And Madan Patki here has had a lot of experience in this area. Do you think that we need that mindset shift, that the capital is not the thing which comes from SoftBank?
Absolutely.
Or from your FIIs? It does from SoftBank. I'll come to that. Because someone who used to work for SoftBank is also here.
From there, yeah.
But do you think we need that? We need that mindset that the people who are in Orai and Jhansi, and people who are in Vadnagar and Gujarat, those people, if you start treating them as the capital.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And fascinating conversation. 3 points, and I'll zoom out a bit. I was in a school about 6 months ago, some 9th, 10th standard kids, and some conversation on entrepreneurship. On a whim, I just said, I'll give you 10 minutes, each of you, and this is an urban school in Bangalore. I said, each of you just write a 1 page on what do you think rural India is. Interesting, 60 kids, almost all of them wrote that 1 page, and everything started with villages are poor, people are illiterate, farmers are not having money, right? So I had a conversation saying, where did you get this notion from, right? Where did you hear? I said, oh, we see movies, we see YouTube, we see serials.
Panchayat.
And papers. And I was giving them examples saying, yeah, you know, for everything, you can't paint it with the same brushstroke. I was even looking for one person who said, you know, villages are prosperous, farmers have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, whatever, right? It was, so what shook me was that it is these, whatever, 13-year-old, 14-year-olds will carry this impression into whatever they do the next 10, 15 years. So I think there's a larger narrative that we need to change, right? The mindset, not just in rural, but in urban as well. The second point, which, you know, from a capital standpoint, and I keep provoking this question, saying this is, the GDP of India is in our face every day, right? Rightfully so, 4 trillion, and we'll be 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever that number is we can be. I use this because I work in that district, but it also rhymes with India. There's a district called Mandya in Karnataka. And, you know, of course, it's a prosperous district. It's on the Kaveri belt and all that. If I were to just ask anybody here to hazard a guess, what do you think is the district GDP of Mandya? Wild guess. Any guesses? Order of magnitude of 100 crores, 1,000 crores, whatever that is. Okay. It stumped me as well. Mandya's GDP, as per the Karnataka Economic Census report in 22-23, 2 years ago, was a whopping 54,000 crores.
Wow.
This is still the formal, whatever the account.
Which is captured by yeah.
Which is there, right? And in 2016, it was 24,000 crores. So it's doubled in about 8 years.
Yeah.
It's going to double again in the next 7-8 years.
Yeah,
So-
it will slow down. This thing is high. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, listen, by 2030, thereabouts, Mandya, one district in Karnataka itself will be a 100,000 crore economy.
Yeah.
Right? That is $12 billion, the size of 6 Bhutans. The poorest district, and I'm speaking from Karnataka's angle, poorest district itself is about 22,000 crores, Yadgir. So where I'm coming from a capital standpoint is that, you know, I come from the startup world where we pat ourselves on the back for having created 120 unicorns and stuff like that. If 50,000 crores is going to get added in economic value to one district alone, I can envision at least 5 businesses of 1,000 crores each the next 5 years in very different models using tech or whatever, right? So I argue that even every district of our country can probably have 4 or 5 unicorns in whatever that definition is, right? So there is money, there is economic activity, but to your point that you're making, you know, it does not fit into the mainstream narrative, because we want to go and say so many millions of dollars invested, these startup raised so much of money, blah, blah, blah. But there's so much of activity happening there and possibilities. In fact, I was arguing that maybe we should even abolish the Ministry of Rural Development and call it the Ministry of Local Economic Development. Because it's all about that, right? If every district can be a $10 billion economy, right? And there is a potential. How do we view it from that lens, and what do we need to do to galvanize everything around that? And the last point about capital, I've seen many miracles happen. You know, my life itself changed when I was assessing people and bucketing people into employable, not employable. I got shaken when we did our first experiment 15 years ago through the Head and Hair Foundation, where we took literally zero educated, illiterate village youth, and in 6 months we were able to transform them to be English-speaking, digital literate knowledge professionals. I saw the potential of youth, but a lot of us die without knowing what treasures lie within, and that's unfortunately the challenges of capability, right? So if we can create capability platforms and opportunity platforms, you know, poverty in a way can be solved for, because People are hungry. I work with youth every day. There is aspirations, there is immense talent. Technology is there in every village now. With AI coming in, the possibilities are immense to use it for good. And finally, entrepreneurial spirit, the jugaad or whatever, that resilience in entrepreneurs in rural is far higher than in urban. So I think if you combine these four, maybe we should even stop saying the word rural. In fact, I call it Ruben, and therefore Rubenomics as a model to say how do we reimagine rural as hubs of economic growth with youth, aspirations, talent, and technology.
We don't need to change the name. I mean, because that means you don't like the name. I like the name rural. It's fine.
No, but I agree, but it still carries some connotations. Maybe we need to reframe.
Yeah, so that's fine. That's absolutely fine, and congratulations to Mandya. But I'm coming from, and I'm guiding this because you talked about the digital and all that, and Paroma is here. Karnataka, including Bangalore, 2 years ago, their per capita income was $4,637, which is actually less than Namibia. So we have to keep all these things all the time in perspective. Okay, Uttar Pradesh is Zambia. So we have to just keep thinking that when we throw these big numbers, 6th largest economy, 4th largest economy, because we have a huge challenge in terms of
population,
people. And in terms of population, and that can be what you talked about, that how can that divide can be abridged is through this whole new technology called digital. Paroma Roy Chaudhary, I first called her to meet when I was working with the Prime Minister's office, and she was the public affairs head of Google in India. And none of the persons in PMO could understand that why I am, as the media advisor, not calling the editors, but calling someone from Google. So, and here we are 15 years hence. Okay, Google is running the country, is the largest news organization in the world. And you also, before that, you also, after that, you worked with SoftBank, with the women's thing. This talk, when you hear, do you think, is it changing fast enough, say in the last 15 years or something?
Let me be the representative of evil corporate capital and throw some numbers. India, according to Internet and Mobile Association, will have 900 million plus users this year. And out of that, 488 million come from rural areas. So, I mean, in one sense, we are stating the obvious. All the growth is going to come from there. The urban, centers are saturated. If I take a mobile statistic, Delhi and Bangalore have had 95% plus mobile density. There's no room to grow anymore. And that's why your calls drop. And I also worked in Airtel, by the way, so I know a thing or two about telecom. So in a way, it is already the growth engine. But having said that, let's not fall back on platitudes. Even when we were working in Google 15 years back, 10 years back, we had to have programs like Internet Sathi for women who were not allowed to touch the desktop at home, thinking that, the CARP said that it's going to corrupt our women, corrupt our girl children. 2 hours from Delhi, or even closer. So, while the numbers paint a very interesting story, there are many hurdles even now where there are stumbling blocks. What are the top 3 uses of internet? Can anybody take a guess? Data-driven. Plus, even if you have intuitive, what are the 3 top areas?
Cricket, YouTube movies.
Well, you're right. Streaming is number 1. Content. Yeah. The second, you will be really surprised. It's a large consumer of maps. It's very interesting how maps are used, particularly if you have maps in local language. Maps are hugely used. And what is the third? Actually, payment. These are the three engines which are galvanizing internet use. And it's going to even more. But stumbling blocks there, lack of regional language content, huge lack of regional language content, availability of device, which is to women, and now there's not really gender cut. Base is almost 50%, 50-50. But the male usage grows exponentially. This is all data, nothing anecdotal, you'll find everything on internet. So, in a way, if you get relevant content like agriculture, weather, health, children's education, women's education, it's huge. It's going to take usage away much, much more. So that's why I'm saying that whether you have a question, Pankaj?
No. I need a mic. But
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is that there is the obvious, growth is obvious, usage is obvious, but to galvanize it into an even more potent economic force, developmental force, and let's not get seduced by big numbers. It's very easy in India to get big numbers because we have so many of them.
We are a big country. We'll have big numbers.
Big
I
numbers.
mean, everything will
But
be big, you know.
let's look at the blocks that we have and let's try to solve them, like
Thank you.
content, accessibility, device.
Thank you.
Three things.
I'll stay on that. I'll stay on that because I realized very recently that the largest private sector company in India in terms of payments to their employers is not TCS. And I've been thinking about it. And you will be shocked, it's YouTube. YouTube is paying 1 lakh rupees or more per year to 8 lakh people in India. TCS employs 6.8 lakh, okay? And Reliance even less, 3.9. So now you know that we are and how to integrate, and as you are saying now, half of it is coming from the rural areas. How to, number one, integrate this, and number two, the influencers are coming from YouTube. And what you talked about, you know, local language. Anuragji, how can we deploy this huge advantage to things like what you are doing, okay? Let's have a reel makers on how to fix a phone in Bhojpuri or, you know, this thing.
Just one point, I'll tell you. How many WhatsApp users do you think we have on a daily basis? I'm a great one for data. Regardless of language, we have 550 million WhatsApp users on a daily basis. So can you imagine the kind of content that we are generating already in various languages?
And how to deploy it for productive work? That is very important. Productive work.
Rural India, when we tend to think of it, that they're not digitally literate. I'm sorry, they are digitally literate. Don't be under that impression. I go for a cup of tea and I stop at a dhaba and he puts up a phone pay QR code bang in front of me. The biggest change which happened to rural India was DBT, direct benefit transfer, where everyone got a bank account. So everyone's been enabled. That's a huge change. I mean, they call it JAM, which is Janadhar, and mobile. So that's been a major change. Now coming back, Lalitpur, a small, tiny little place. We have a BPO there, 100-seater. When I went to Gurgaon once to Policy Bazaar, and we were talking to the CEO, and I was telling him, why don't you come to Jhansi? I'll get you the place. He had about 15 or 16% of his employees come in from Bundelkhand, and I'm talking both parts of Bundelkhand, UP and the MP part of Bundelkhand. And he had an attrition level of about 24-26%. And so who runs back? He said, most of your children run back. So I said, of course they will, because you're paying them barely 25,000, 26,000 rupees. he spends 6,000 rupees on the creche he
Rent.
stays in. The rest goes into food, and Delhi is an expensive place. So is Gurgaon, an expensive place. If you open these in places like Jhansi, one, he gets to stay with mom and dad, which is rent-free. Somebody else cooks his food, so he doesn't pay that much for food. So he's not going to have the same attrition level. I don't know about BPO figures, ma'am, you would know much better than I do, but I think most of the calls made in this country would be in the local language. Why are we trying to get all these kids who know local languages so well to be taught English? It's not compulsory. So they need to be taught their local languages well. They need to be taught the soft skills well enough. They can live back in their villages. They can operate. When you have in urban centers, what do you call that? Work from home culture. Yeah? So they could be working from their homes in the villages. Why don't we do that? You have to enable that. When we're now putting in cables where you are now getting 5G in rural villages, you can keep empowering people there. I'll give you another case where we think of children not being able to have the same advantages or perform on the same level as urban India. I think it's a myth. You mentioned GIC. You studied there.
Yeah. Very
I've
proud.
created a cricket stadium which has fancy lights and you can play cricket at night. 3 years we have one child playing in the IPL. We've created a track and field at the back. I have a girl from Paricha, small tiny village. She won the silver in the Asian. And we've got these kind of children coming up. They're far more hungrier.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, that when we are talking about capital, we have to not
This is
think
human
about,
capital.
Not to think about Sensex. Okay, because when we talk about capital, I mean, we tend to go to RBI's policy and we tend to go to Government of India, Finance Ministry and all that. This is the kind of a capital. I met someone last evening, a former colleague from NDTV, and I asked her, so what are you doing now? So she said, I'm taking some startup founders to America, to West Coast, to meet this Sam Altman and all these people, Zuckerberg and stuff like that. So I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm like an Uber for startups. So oh my God. And I got that idea and I thought I'll ask you this question. Can we have this Uber for startups in like every district and every, region? No, please go ahead because you guys
Uber for startups. I also serve on the committee for cooperation, Ministry of Cooperation. 3 days ago, they're coming up with a new plan which is an Uber for rural India. So one thing I asked them was, are we going to add e-rickshaws to it? I have a lot of e-rickshaws. So he says, sir, e-rickshaws bhi add karenge aur bikes bhi add karenge aur digitally enable karenge. And zyadatar we will try and get women drivers. Once you do that, there will be a lot more mobility of women in rural India trying to get to places, doing their work and business. They'll feel a lot more safer. The other interesting thing which came about, which is I thought completely, for me, I'm sorry, you guys are much more aware than I am, is carbon credits
that's a big thing.
for farmers.
Yeah.
Carbon credits for farmers,
Solar
and I said,
plants,
that's not possible, you guys can't execute that.
No,
They have done it, it's happened in Gujarat, and one cooperative got ₹1 crore out of it. So I'm going to go back home and replicate it next morning the moment the parliament session goes off. Because if I can get carbon credit for people to grow orchards, it's a huge game changer. The amount you will empower him.
This is the thing, and that's why I was asking you about. In Delhi, do you know if you are living in any of the colonies of Delhi, the government give you 50% concession if you are going to put a solar panel on top of your building. Do you know that? But we don't have anything of that sort for rural India. Wherever we have, it's like a runaway success, because when the farmer is not working the field, he's still got some income coming from this. And that's where the carbon credits, and we do that. But this whole thing about, again, scalability. Uber for startups and Uber for tractors. You forgot tractors.
Yeah, no, I think 2 points there here, Pankaj. One is I'm wearing the tie hat, the entrepreneur network that is there globally. We have about 32 chapters in India, and we are now seeing a flurry of action coming from emerging clusters. We inaugurated a chapter in Siliguri a few weeks ago. We're starting off in Kalburgi in Bangalore. In Karnataka, where I see is that there is an enormous amount of energy in youth to kind of start figuring out what I can do on my own, except that the ecosystem is still very nascent, right? How Bangalore was in 2000 or early 2000, late 90s, we're still there where, slowly the investors are coming into place. In fact, we did a session for angel investors in a place like Kalburgi on how to invest in startups. And there is enough money there which says that I want to be in that play as well. So I think from a youth capital and a potential standpoint, we're seeing this whole aspect of the Uber for startups or whatever that you can call it as, where they're all currently migrating, that you reach a certain level, you have to be in Bangalore or a Hyderabad or a Chennai. But I think the trick lies in creating more vibrant ecosystems at the local level, which is happening slowly. We need to accelerate that. The second point about this digital thing is truly fascinating because I'm not seeing any restrictions. I was in some college in Bidar recently where one youth was saying, I'm building an app for AI detection, using AI to detect cancerous mutations in some things. And I'm trying to talk to a college a cancer hospital in Maryland. I said, how did you make the connect? They said, I just went on LinkedIn, put something on LinkedIn, and somebody reached out to me and I'm talking to them. So the beauty is that the digital world is opening up at a much faster pace and there are no boundaries there, right? I was just sharing with somebody saying that probably, that is one kind of a transaction you can't put a tariff on for the moment, right? Because you can digitally create and sell anywhere. Today there are no...
Maybe coming, you never know.
Technically, you never know. But I think if you combine the youth, the digital revolution and the startup thinking.
Yeah, and the thing is opportunity. And
absolutely.
Coming to that again, and I was going to Yamini on that. Everyone I've met from startup community, from unicorn founders to people who are working in villages, the biggest problem is compliances. And that's why the need of this Uber, the hand-holding, the enabling and all that kind of a thing, compliances. And Yamini, this is here for you. Do you think that we have really over-regulated everything?
It's a trope, but listening to this conversation, I thought it's worth remembering the trope that people often use about India, which is that it is a 21st century country on the one hand, and it's a 19th century country on the other. We've spoken about Ubers for startups, and I'm thinking about the next session, the conversation I'm about to have in an hour or so in another seminar, which is grappling with the fact that 50% of children in Standard 2 can barely read in Standard 5 can barely read a Standard 2 textbook. So let's get real about what we are and what we need. Of course, the 21st century capacity for leapfrog and the entrepreneurial capability that exists in all of us is an untapped resource and it needs to be tapped into. But we must recognize that we have some very real hard work that we have failed to do. That hard work is about investments in people, and that those investments in people are not necessarily, with due respect, about Ubers for going from the village into the town, but really about ensuring that the street lights and the roads and the schools are structured in such a way that, in fact, people will go wherever they want to go in whatever way and form they want to go. Today's India has the largest work-for-home reality than any other country in the world. We didn't need COVID for work from home because apart from subsistence-based agriculture, own enterprise and self-employment is the largest employment generation. That is one family with one male member and probably a non-paid female lead of the member of the household who's actually sitting there in their homes busy, making whatever small things they can to ensure that there's food on their table. And we haven't figured out how we can take that own enterprise into a larger firm, into something that can be genuinely productivity enhancing and can actually go through that process of transition. That requires serious investments in education, serious investments in basic infrastructure. We had PMGSY, in my view, was one of the most successful rural investments that we made. It needs more. Those roads were made now 20 years ago. There's operation and maintenance. We have ignored the last mile of governance, which is the panchayat, which is where a lot of this should happen. The municipality and the panchayats are the two most disempowered levels of government in our country. In today's India, if you do not set up the Central Finance Commission, every state government, even BJP state governments, will be on the streets. But every state government has not set up their state finance commissions, rarely actually empowers them or implements, if it is set up, any of the recommendations, no taxation powers, therefore no accountability systems. We have disempowered and distanced the state from the grassroots. And so occasionally we sit in rooms like this and come up with some nice programs. Some of them get implemented. We have JAM, great. What have we done with JAM? We've given some cash transfer. What is the actual empowerment that we have done with all these great technologies that can leverage the entrepreneurship that all of you have been talking about?
That's exactly this whole session is about, that the JAM is actually now DBT. Okay, and we are saying, oh, we are giving the direct this thing, and there's no holes in the pipeline, and the money is going to people it's supposed to go to. But why?
Because you need to be actually then willing to say, I will take my budget out of the fancy highway that I'm building and put it into the school in Jhansi. Sorry, but ultimately, you are operating in a world of limited resources, always. And fiscal choices have to be made. Those are choices of politics and power. And it does mean that we as societies have to arrive at some consensus about what we want. Coming to your point on regulation, by the way, it's the same problem. You create new compliances precisely because those compliances give you this give you power, but also create a kind of form of functioning of a state. Whereas actually the reality is that neither capital nor labor is benefited by any of these compliances. And then when you try to deregulate, you deregulate the wrong thing. Government of Rajasthan, 10 years ago, did labor deregulation along the lines of the 4 codes that have been passed by Parliament and has still not been implemented. I have not seen a single study that shows me how this deregulation enhanced the capability of the 10-person firm to become a 100-person firm. In my opinion, the biggest bottleneck amongst others was the quality of urban infrastructure and the ability of even small things, women getting to work, because we don't have good urban infrastructure and women don't want to go out to work.
See, this is the art of subtlety and non-subtlety. I was trying to be very subtle when I said that Karnataka, which is our like model state, is like Namibia. Okay, so I was trying to be very subtle. Some people got it, some people didn't. But she had to like go expand full volume. And this is the situation. But let's face it, facts are facts, and we have to keep working on the facts. And what the gross value addition we are talking about in the rural area, agriculture, allied industries of agriculture, I can see that we have been wavering between 16% to we went up to about 20% in 2021, which was the bad year actually. So our GV really went up in agriculture in that year, and then it's again coming down because I thought it would pick up. So the amount or the volume of value in our country from agriculture and mainly rural areas is not increasing. We've got a lot of anecdotal things. I also have a lot of people who come and do that. So what is the big thing we can take away from here?
One brief point, okay? This is really nothing to do with agriculture, but this is something one needs to take cognizance of. I've sat in many, many investment committees, given the jobs that I've done. How many VCs today you think will fund a startup headed by a woman from a rural India? How many? For instance, how many started by women as such? Forget women. I mean, someone who's not English speaking, fluently English speaking, and comes from a rural background, has a fabulous idea, but does she get funding? She doesn't even get a hearing. I mean, I have heard things like, a woman with 2 kids in her 40s, forget it. From the best of people. So when we talk about such really, and even female founder funds, I can name a few. I'm not going to go there, of course. But before we talk about things like, there's no barrier anymore. Madan, there is barrier. Invisible barriers are huge. I'm not saying that, they can't be scaled. But it needs effort, to Yamini's point, concentrated focus on removing some of these and get these conversations enabled. A weaver selling saris more than 2 lakhs actually has an audience sitting in his village. I mean, I've actually met somebody like that. His average sari price is 2 lakh plus. But he's a male. So, this is a slightly different point, but it's important to...
Capacity building.
It's capacity building, removal of biases. And
Capability, not capacity. Everyone
capability.
has capacity. It's about capabilities.
Yeah, that's absolutely. No, what I'm talking about capacity is basically that if you're keeping such a large population out of this thing, so you are losing on capacity.
Out of the formal economy.
Every woman can, participate, and
But
sometimes.
look where you're coming from. When you come from a very feudal society, where ghungat till below her face. Today, when I walk into a Balini meeting, the first thing I say is, "Sabke chehre dikhne chahiye." These women weren't even willing to pick up the mic. Now the director of Balini comes on when the Prime Minister is speaking and she speaks back. When my Chief Minister comes in, she walks back and she probably never sat in a village ka panchayat ka meeting. So that's how you need to enable them. And ma'am was completely right. I understand because I run schools and I run a lot of institutions where we try and fund little children and where we do scholarships and blah, blah, blah. But education is the greatest enabler and equalizer. Once you get these children enabled and where they feel confident, so we need, as a country, to spend far more funding. But PMGSY, like you said, was extremely successful, but we're doing another scheme now. It's called Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Yojana, which is again connecting the small houses which have been left off. So let's say what we call a majra in Bundelkhandi. A village will be spread across 8 or 10 kilometers. There are about 40 families living somewhere, about 100 families living somewhere. Now even those roads are going to be connected. So all that is happening. First time we're getting drinking water. We've never had drinking water. With this Jal Yojana, so there are people now getting time off because she used to walk 4 kilometers daily to go and get water. Today she's getting fresh, clean drinking water.
It's like
for me, it's a game changer. It's
one of the harshest areas I've been to, in India.
So all this is being enabled. You said, ma'am, people not willing to invest with women. That is true. That's why we created RISE in Jhansi. It's Rani Lakshmibai Innovation and Sustainable Entrepreneurship. And I was the first one to fund it. So I went with a check and I've been funding your nest here in Delhi and all that angel investments, and we do that as a corporate. But this was a different opportunity. And the opportunity was what? The opportunity was for her to put up a Gobar gas plant and sell manure. And if she could do that successfully across, imagine the circular economy you can create inside a village. We will not need Hindustan Levers of the world to come and sell me soap. I can make my soap there.
Yes. That is what
I can add the value addition there. If I put up a solar chakki, sir, if I put up a solar chakki, my atta is far more cheaper than what Mr. Adani sells to you. So I am willing to do that. You just need that opportunity. So the government certain times can enable it, but you need is the biggest sensitization and the biggest hurdle we face is the mid-level officers are not yet sensitized to what Manrega could have done, to what these other schemes can do. Well, most of them don't even know that if you actually You want to raise some chicken in your home, you can get Manrega funding. They don't even know somebody plants a couple of trees and they want to make a little water harvesting pit. You can get Manrega funds for your own house. Now, most of them won't even know about this. So translation is becoming a big hurdle.
And that brings me back to the whole design problem kind of a thing that we are, and the design problem now is, Mr. Pataki, this one thing is a big question. We have missed out, simple thing, we are agricultural economy, everywhere in the world, then we become a manufacturing economy, industrial economy, and then we become a service economy. We somehow have missed out on one step. Is it possible that we can have micro manufacturing, what we were talking about, and micro industry at scale, so we can get actually into services economy, which is our largest thing? So can we make that transition, and how do we go about that in your experience?
So the answer is, of course, a yes, we have to get there. The challenge is, and we've been trying to do that, today, if you take it at district level, and I also think that the district is too large a entity as well. You got to go down to the taluk and the gram panchayat level. I've been struggling for the last few years to find an opportunity map at every taluk at a district level. Today, there is no structured data available to say where are the opportunities. ODOP is there, ODOS is there, etc., etc. But if you were to take a very structured approach to say, hey, in this is the economic map of the current TESIL. Here is what the 5 years is going to look like. Here are 10 opportunities. Here is what people, because youth come to me and say, I want to do something, pata nahi kya karna hai, right? And we are also trying to throw darts at them and say, ye karo, nahi hua, ye wo karo. Today, where is the structured approach? In fact, I saw a lovely poster or a standee outside to say rural data that DIU will do, so on and so forth. I think that is the need of the hour, where we need to map and then direct capital, direct mentors, direct ideas to that particular opportunity. And there you can then start creating for the local economy, what the local economy, like the soft toys, can be produced for the world outside, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that approach is required.
That also needs a attitudinal change. You know why Trump tariffs are not working on India's stock market? It's because of the small investor. The FIIs have taken away about 1.5 billion or some such thing, and the DIIs, the domestic institutions, they have put in about 4 lakh crores kind of a thing. It's that small person. But the small person's head is into Sensex and the mutual funds, not in the opportunity which is next door, 3 houses away. That is how we have to change the system, because the small person has money now. The mutual funds are getting about almost half of their money from the tier 2 and tier 3 towns. But we have to change that. You have to have that kind of evidence, imagination, resolve. So, imagination.
Just quickly to add to that, I think everything that you have said brings us back to the point I made earlier, that we have a governance structure that is just too far away from where the action is. Or this mapping that you're talking about, if you look at the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment, very clearly, Gram Panchayat level are supposed to make socio-economic development plans. There have been all sorts of on paper, every line ministry has all of these things that are supposed to have been done, skill mapping, job, all kinds of things. If you don't empower, reorient governance so that it is bottom up and not top down, none of this is going to be possible. The second, just very quickly, also to remember that as a society, we are, as I said rightly, this is a feudal society. There are many other ways of kind of describing the exploitative relationships within which our society is embedded. And one consequence of that exploitative relationship is that the government job is the most aspirational possibility for the average youth in both rural and urban India, but perhaps more strongly in rural India. And our conversations often want to dismiss it. It's a problem, but it is our reality, okay? So how best can you actually use that reality in a way that strengthens and empowers? We have contractualized the local government completely. We stopped hiring, we only hire on contract workers. Every village needs more Anganwadi workers, needs more Gram Panchayat secretaries, needs more Ashas, needs more teachers. This whole idea that, and actually politicians know this, which is why when you go to the hustings, you always say Sarkari Naukri, all dalenge. Then ultimately you look at the fiscal situation and other things come into play and you don't do it. But because you know it, or aap bolte bhi ho, to ab kyun nahi kare? A large part of a lot of what we're talking about requires strong, not strong, because we don't like strong government, we want democratic governments, but big democratic governments that actually work on the ground in an accountable fashion.
Empathy.
That is what will transform rural India. Empower the panchayats.
Empathy. Ultimately, it boils down to that. Do you have
You don't
empathy?
require more government, believe me. You have enough government. Please don't go there.
We have the thinnest government in the world.
Arey, hello. We pulled him out of parliament today, so let's not do that all over again.
No, I'll tell you why. Because what happens, Indians are probably one of the most innovative people. And left to our own devices, the least government we have, the better we do.
Seriously.
It's the training and what you said, empathy. At the lowest level, if that gets created, and you train the Gram Panchayat workers, you train the Pradhan with his powers, then you actually will be able to transform.
That's, I think we come back to where we started from. Not a center of sympathy, but a center of strategy. And I think you had enough evidence here and pointers at least to think that how it, I'm sure that a lot of you are, who are here can tomorrow come up with some sort of a well-designed plan and program and work in the field. Thank you very much. We don't have enough time now. Are we okay on time?
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay, so that's it. Would you like to say anyone in 2 minutes? Last, I think everyone basically said, but she's in comms, so she would have something to say.
Video, content, local language, affordable device, and lack of bias.
Good. That's the comms thing.
Believe in rural India. Once you have the belief and the faith, they will deliver. It's just that our lack of belief in them. So we need to believe in our own people. We need to look back into our roots, into our own societies, and into our own culture. The more you keep importing various ideas and you do not internalize them enough, you are never going to be successful. You have to go back to rural India. Thank you.
Empowered citizens, not consumers, not labhartis, will get far.
Youth, digital, district economies, and entrepreneurship. I think those to me are the buzzwords that we need to transform rural India.
Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this and go back with some thoughts.
Thank you so much for a really, really interesting discussion. Really enjoyed it all. I'm really glad to hear that you're championing and recognizing carbon credits and financing as well. It's something that TRI has been doing in Jharkhand and beyond for the past few years. And also in terms of trying to sensitize, or shall we just say, let urban youth know about what's happening in the villages. I encourage everyone to have a look at villagesquare.in, where, of course, we're sharing those stories every day as well. So thank you very much. I'm going to call my colleague, Neeraj Ahuja, up because we have a special announcement we would like to make very quickly before we break for a very quick lunch. Neeraj?
Thank you, and what an amazing conversation. And I couldn't help, think about these ideas, the Uber for entrepreneurs, and the One India in the 19th century and the 21st century. So how do we think about it? So I just want to quickly take a minute because I couldn't help link it with a very interesting similar session we had the day before, where we had participation from senior bureaucrats and philanthropies on the ecosystem for what we are calling mini and nano rural enterprises. So we have our definitions of MSME, but in micro, if you see, there are these rural enterprises who have investments up to 20-25 lakh rupees. Micro comprises of up to 2.5 crore. So this category of 1 to 25 lakh rupees, this is something that is the most bustling, it's most dynamic, and doesn't have a organized support in terms of ecosystem. So that's, I think you all talked about, so I just wanted to mention that. You guys can look at that session. We'll be putting up in the website. Very insightful conversation on that part as well. And with that, I think there are these two critical elements that you guys speak of, and I thought this is an opportune time for making a quick announcement, so bear with me. You talked about the ecosystem and linking it to the ecosystem of mini and nano rural enterprises. So one is definitely tech. You talked about the creative economy providing employment to more than 7.5 lakh people. So for that, TRI is pleased to be announcing a partnership with Hedelhai Foundation. Madan is here. On creating Jan AI centers. So we are going to be creating those 50 centers across rural India and targeting to get access of AI to more than 1 million rural youth to become and be able to effectively contribute towards this creative economy. So that's one quick announcement I wanted to make related to the conversation. So thank you very much. And for the next, again, very important point linked to the conversations on the other part of the ecosystem and the economy. We talked about the logistics, inbound and outbound logistics. So for that, I would like Madan, if you can quickly come up and share 2 minutes.
Sure. Thanks, Neeraj. I think this is a great platform to kind of seed some thoughts. The Jan AI Kendra, maybe just an ad. The thought is that the telecom revolution got democratized through PCOs, and the internet got democratized through internet cafes that sprung up in every small part of the rural and urban India. Mobile got democratized through mom and pop mobile repair shops, recharge centers. So we're wondering, what does the manifestation for AI look like? So we've said maybe one of the manifestations could be a Jan AI Kendra, where there could be an entrepreneur who will work with the local community, talk about AI, create awareness, training programs, but also recommend tools for a farmer, for a housewife, for a FPO worker, for a youth on what can be used, because the Play Store is a big, massive thing to search, and you could also get trust is an issue. You don't know which cyber security scam will hit you from, cyber attack will hit you from where. So that's how we are now trying to create the Jan AI Kendras as an experiment amongst the 50 odd centers that TRI has. We've already launched a couple in down south. So we will experiment and figure out what that manifestation could look like. For the MNRE, one of the ventures that I run is called OneBridge, where we've almost delivered about 100 million packages the last 10 years into rural hinterlands, but this is all inbound, Amazon, Flipkarts. But I keep wondering that if we can make access to logistics, branding, packaging easy for smaller entrepreneurs, for products to move in and out, that will reduce a lot of friction and cost. So in a few districts, again, in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, we are setting up a rural logistics hub, almost a dark store where entrepreneurs can use that center for both inbound and outbound logistics. And we can then spur a local economic activity to happen. This is something that we will seed and put this on the platter. Again, this is a fantastic audience. We are on the design side, and we'll start off with something, having your ideas come into play and what we can connect the dots to a larger economic activity, both on technology and logistics. Happy to work together to figure out what we can do to truly empower commerce at the grassroots. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So these two great announcements following right from the conversations. So this is what we call from conversations to action. So thank you very much. Just wanted to take this opportunity to announce.
Thank you.
And before you leave, if we could have a photo, and then we'd like to give you a small token of our appreciation with a little goodie bag.
Oh, not the Pringle.
Well, those you've left those up here. I'll take those. Or the real potatoes. Yeah. Thank you. Another round of applause, and then we can go for lunch. Thank you, everyone, and it will be a short lunch. We'll come back promptly at 1:30. So go and enjoy some food. We'll see you in 25 minutes.